Right, I see already some people dialing in for the YouTube channel. That's great. We're gonna start letting people in, I think, in a minute.
Great.
Right, I see already some people dialing in for the YouTube channel. That's great. $12 in New York. Welcome to an Agile NYC user group event. Right, I'm just letting some people in here in the background. You guys are the lucky ones that got in with the registration. We have only 100 seats on this Zoom license, but we're also broadcasting on YouTube live. First time for trying this. So I'm going to reach out to everybody who was out there after this event and see what kind of experience they had. Yeah. Fortunately, as far as I know, they cannot interact with us. They can only watch us. But I do want to let you guys know that whatever you're asking, whatever you're saying and voicing on this call will be also streamed on YouTube. And we will be later recording this session and make it also available for replay, which I'm sure it's going to be very useful. So, yeah, I would love to see like you guys maybe punch in our chat window here in Zoom, just like, you know, where you guys are from. It's always good to see like, you know, sometimes we have a very New York City heavy audience. Sometimes we have people from around the world. Here we go, New York, Connecticut. That's great. Welcome. It's lunchtime, and thank you for spending lunchtime here with us today. For Jeff, it's more dinner time.
It is. Andrew's in the UK.
Okay. Here's another one, New York City. I will also monitor the chat window a little bit later, a little bit more actively while I'm getting things set up here for you guys with Jeff. And then obviously I'm gonna also give you guys some information on next events that we're going to have. So I'm just gonna let everybody in. This is great. This is awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah, so again, we are online. Sometimes, you know, in the past, we made statements about coming back together in person. We will try that too. We're currently actively looking for a venue that could possibly host us in New York. We have PACE and we will have PACE University to do that, but there are still some rules and regulations in place that makes it not very easy for us to book rooms. So if you are working for or in a company that has a meeting space that we can utilize temporarily, we just had a request for somebody to would actually join us and do an in-person session. But we're also going to continue with some online sessions like this one, virtual online, because that gives us an opportunity to bring in a speaker very relatively easy, without traveling so much, just like Jeff dialing in from Europe. So that gives us a huge opportunity. I was thinking maybe Jeff is traveling to New York sometime soon and we could get him in person, but this is great. So I'm happy about that. Our next event is not set in stone. Usually I'm announcing that up front and give you a registration link that needs to follow after this event. But our next event will be Jim Highsmith. So he's going to speak to us, and this is awesome. I'm sure I don't need to introduce Jim Highsmith to this group over here. You know, one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto. While I'm letting people in, I'm also, so I'm not forgetting, will be recording this event. And I will later cut this up nicely and put this onto our website, agilenyc.org. today is a great pleasure to have Jeff not join Agile NYC, but joining it again. Jeff, I remember way back when he lived and worked in Manhattan, and we met many times through work, and he also spoke, as far as I remember, at Agile NYC, our first Agile Day in New York. We did at Times Square, and that was a kickoff to many Agile Day conferences. It was also the start of an amazing book series Jeff put together that is with Lean UX. That's now in the third edition, as well as Sense and Respond. And that's another book he co-authored with Josh Seiden. And he's a regular in this in the community, but it's very hard to get on his calendar. So I'm super happy to have him share some thoughts around the topic on OKRs, objectives and key results. He is so passionate about for years now, and now he's putting this topic into a book that is to be released, and I'm gonna let him talk about release dates more than anybody else. He knows better. But that book is coming out soon. He's working on it, again, co-authored with Josh. And yeah, so I'm excited about it because we had the opportunity to record a podcast a few weeks ago on Agile FM. So you can also tune in. I'll share that link in the chat later with you. And it's also a topic I'm super thrilled about, as I'm working on a book on Agile Kata, and that's super tightly connected to value and metrics. And so I decided to put out a webinar. I'm just going to put that out to link these two topics. But I want to open up the stage to Jeff. He's going to have roughly 40 minutes or so on OKRs. I don't know how he wants to handle questions, maybe at the end. But we do have a hard stop at 1 o'clock New York time. So I just want to make you guys aware of it, as Jeff needs to run. But we'll share links, how you get in touch with him, and for follow-up questions as you might have. So Jeff, thank you for being here, making the time in your evening hours, and you take it away.
It's my pleasure. It's really nice to be here, Joe, and our collaboration has lasted a long time. I think when we first met, your kids were just born, and my second kid was born, and now they're like 16, 17-year-old teenagers. So it's been a long time of collaboration and keeping in touch, and I appreciate you continuing to invite me back here. And it's great. It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm going to jump into my presentation here in just a second. I didn't want to forget this because it seems to be doing particularly decent numbers in the last 24 hours or so. And it's related to this talk. And so save this link for later. We can talk about it in the Q&A as well. We'll do Q&A afterwards as well. But I posted a blog post this weekend about OKRs and user story mapping. I was chatting with Jeff Patton last week about user story mapping because I had to teach it last week. And sometimes if you can go to the guy who made the thing to help you teach the thing, it goes a long way. And I'm lucky to count him as a friend. And then we're talking about OKRs and user story mapping. And so anyway, if you're interested about that, that's in the chat. The link there is in the chat. It's the most recent blog post on my blog. That said, let's jump into it. I think given what time it is, I try to do about 35 minutes of the presentation, and then we'll do as much Q&A as we can in this process. Okay. And so look, let's jump into it. Obviously this is about OKRs, but I need to put in some foundation first about why we're even talking about this in the first place. And the most important thing is this, and it's half the thesis of Sense and Respond, the book, which is this idea that you are in the software business, right? What that means is that no matter what business that you're in, if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to grow, if you're looking to compete on any kind of level aside from, hyper local, you're using technology and particularly software to do that. This is from McDonald's. You guys have been to McDonald's, I'm sure, in the last few years, right? Whether you like to admit it or not, I don't like to admit it, but I have been to McDonald's in several places here and there. And you know what? This is how you order at McDonald's these days, right? You don't talk to anybody. You use a touch screen. That's software. That's hardware. That's technology. And that's the business. That's how McDonald's scales, right? So yes, you can argue they're a restaurant franchise, but the business operates on top of a software-based platform. And that's true for everybody across the board. And so that's really important to recognize that we kind of get our mindset that we are in the software business, no matter what we do these days, if we're trying to grow and scale. And what's further interesting is that the nature of software has fundamentally changed, right? We don't go to the store and buy a box of software anymore. When Joe and I started working professionally, you did go to the store and you did buy a box of software because that's how we delivered it, right? I worked in America Online for a bunch of years, and we would print 15 million copies of the software that we made. And then we would ship it to you. You're welcome, by the way, again and again and again. And so software was fixed. It was static, right? But today, think of this concept like you don't go to the store and buy a box of TikTok, right? This is not like I'm going to go get a shrink wrapped case of Amazon or Netflix. Like it doesn't even make any sense, right? That's not the world that we live in today, right? So we build our businesses on top of these software systems. And the systems that we build today are continuous. Everything that we're building evolves and grows and improves and optimizes over time. There is no done to these products and services that we make anymore. There's only a decision to stop working on it, to sunset it, for example. But again, like if you use the kind of the big companies, right? Like when is Netflix done, right? When does Google right now? Google's freaking out, right? They thought they were done with search, right? They killed it, and then all of a sudden AI came and completely shook up their world. Right? Like these organizations are never done, and we are never done. We're building these continuous systems to support the businesses that we're working in. And I love this quote. This is a quote I've been using for a long time from the group executive chairman of BBVA, the big Spanish bank. The part in the middle, he actually was talking about AI and Internet of Things. Like this is a quote from a few years ago now, very prescient quote. But the part in orange is the part that's relevant to our conversation today, which is, if we're building these continuous systems and we're building our businesses on top of these systems that never end, right? We're just continuously optimizing, continuously improving them, then we are competing in a race that has no finish line. Right? Like, again, we're never done with these things. And if there's no finish line, then there can't be a predetermined route because we don't know where we're going, right? It emerges from the usage of the system. It emerges from market trends. It emerges from geopolitical forces and changes in consumer patterns, right? And so this idea that we can comfortably predict exactly where we're going and how we're going to get there. In other words, what we're building, what it's going to look like, how long it'll take, and then the ROI of that is a bit ridiculous in the face of these continuous systems. And in fact, right, when you kind of think about the pace of these systems these days, when we wrote Sense and Respond, we did research for it. So this statistic is from 2015, 2016. Amazon was pushing code to production every 11.6 seconds. That's the pace that they were optimizing their system, right? Today, that pace is 1 second, right? So every second, Amazon pushes code to production 60 times a minute, right? And so this idea, like when I worked in America Online, we had this idea of, being done. And because we worked on something for 9 months, or 12 months or 18 months. And when we were done, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. We never wanted to look at it ever again. And we had a party to celebrate it, right? Shipping features was an event. It was a thing that we wanted to do. When you can ship features every second, right? Every minute, every hour, every day, every week, whatever it is, shipping features is not an event anymore. Right? It's just like it's not a measure of success. It's simply something that we do. And the interesting thing about organizations that don't get it is that when we treat features as an event, right, as the goal, as the production of features, especially given the fact that we're building these continuous systems that we have to maintain forever, we end up building these products that are basically bloated products like this guitar, like it's a version of this particular guitar, right? 99% of our users, well, they just want to use this one neck and play some guitar. And then all this other crap gets in the way because we're so busy shipping stuff, because we can do it quickly, right? And there's this concept of the feature factory, the software factory that you've heard John Cutler talk a lot about. And we can't simply operate like that anymore, because this idea that delivering the code means delivering the value doesn't make sense anymore, right? Delivering the code simply means delivering the code when it's a non-event. And so we have to start thinking about a different measure of success, right? If we're in this world, right, of continuous improvement and continuous delivery. Now, there's one more foundational piece I want to put in place, and then we're going to jump into why OKRs make sense at this point in time. And it's this foundational piece here, okay? Everyone has a customer. Now you can say, Jeff, that's obvious to me, right? We're a company. We sell stuff to other people, B2B, B2C. We have a customer. Yes. But even if you don't work on making customer-facing products, right? If you make internally facing APIs, for example, right? Your colleagues and the teams that consume those APIs are your customer. If you make vacation policy at work, right? The staff of your organization are the customers of that vacation policy. This idea that there's somebody who consumes the thing that you make at work is foundational to changing how we measure success in the face of continuous everything, right? Continuous improvement, continuous learning, and really getting into this idea that everyone that makes something at work, and I would argue that that's everyone. Everyone comes in and makes something, a policy, a program, an initiative, code, design, product, etc. When we combine that concept with continuous everything, we get into this realization that the measure of success has to change. Like this idea that, oh, I made a thing, right? This idea of output doesn't make sense anymore when you can make output every second, right? And so the measure of success that we're trying to push towards is this idea of outcomes being measurable changes in human behavior. This is how we want to measure success, right? If we can continue to optimize our systems, our deliverables, our policies, our initiatives continuously forever, then how do we know that we've delivered value? Well, we know that we've delivered value when we see people behave differently, right? They behave in a way that's more beneficial for them, right? And ideally more beneficial for us. And then the other big question that comes up when you start to think in the systems approach of continuous everything is, when are we done, right? Because at AOL, we were done when we shipped the CDs. But today, if you can optimize the system once every second, once every minute, once every hour, when are we done? Outcomes help us determine when we've done enough work, right? We believe we've maximized the behavior change in this workflow, and now we can move on to something else, right? So we're changing our measure of success from making a thing to changing behavior, from output to outcome. And so then how do we set those goals? And how do we measure that success? And so that leads us to this idea of OKRs. And this is why I think this is like the perfect timing for objectives and key results to shine, given everything that sort of is happening in the world of business and technology together today. So let's talk about very quickly, what are OKRs? OKRs, as we're defining in our new book, right? It's a goal-setting framework. And to be clear, it's a team-based goal-setting framework that defines a qualitative goal, right? Why are we working on something? And then measures success towards that goal by achieving specific outcomes, specific changes in behavior. What's happened, and how do we know that we're achieving the qualitative goal, right? Instead of completing tasks or work product, we're trying to achieve specific outcomes, specific measures, changes in the behavior of the people who consume the thing that we make, okay? So let's get into it. I want to be super specific about this, and I'm going to break this idea of OKRs down into its component parts. I'll show you some examples, and we'll do one quick interactive exercise. Yeah, we've got the time for it. We'll do one quick interactive exercise to sort of illustrate the point a bit more deliberately and sort of outside of tech as well. Okay, so let's break it down. How to write a good objective statement? Well, you need your cat. Very, very important to have your cat with you. But in any case, your objectives, those are your goals. They're strategic or they're tactical, depending on where you're seated in the organization, right? So if you own a business unit, if you run the company, if you're in charge of a department, you're going to put together strategic objectives. But if you work on a product team or a team that makes, is responsible for a slice of the user experience, you're going to have a fairly tactical objective. Now, our objectives are qualitative. Our objectives, so you're going to hear a lot of superlatives in there. The best, the simplest, the most efficient, the most compelling, the single source of truth, things like that. You're going to hear a lot of qualitative superlatives in the description of your objective, right? They should be inspiring, inspirational, and aspirational. This is why we get out of bed. This is why we go to work, and your team should be motivated. This should motivate your team to come to work every day. They should be concrete and clear, provide obvious value. And if you're working at a more tactical level, your objectives should support the higher purpose, the strategic objective. And then finally, your objective should be time-bound. We'd like to achieve this goal by a specific point in time. Okay? So that's our objectives. And the question becomes, how do we come up with the objectives initially? Well, the first thing that we want to do is we want to start with the business problem that we're tackling in the next cycle or cycles, right? What are the things that we are working to solve for in the next 3, 6, or 9 months, roughly speaking, right? Why is it a problem, right? What do you know about the root cause of the issue? And then we want to articulate that problem statement. So if we're going to write our objective, we actually start with the problem. Here's an example business problem, right? Completely hypothetical, just to help illustrate what I'm talking about. Let's assume that we all run a continuing education learning platform for lawyers. We've noticed that our customers sign up for our service, take only one course, and then they leave for another platform, citing our user experience as the main issue. So it's really hard to use the system. We're not going to fight this. There's plenty of other providers. This drives up our acquisition and our sales costs and reduces our profit. This is a big deal for us. So we're going to focus on this for the next cycle, quarter, 2, 3, that type of thing. Okay, so we've started with our problem. The next thing we want to do is we want to ask the question, if we solve the problem, how might we turn that into a positive statement? Right? So if we take the problem statement and turn it into a positive statement, if we solve the problem, what does that look like? Not how do we solve the problem, but if we solve the problem, what does that look like? And in this case, right, I wrote, build an effective and engaging continuing education learning product for the entirety of a lawyer's career to ensure their skills are current, and we want to do this by the end of the year. Now, what I've done here is I've actually written an objective statement. Let me prove it to you, right? Here's my checklist. Qualitative, inspirational, concrete, clear value, supports the higher purpose, time-bound, right? Qualitative, builds an effective and engaging. Those are qualitative words, right? Inspirational and aspirational, right? We want to build this for the entirety of a lawyer's career to ensure their skills are current. This is the whole mission of the company. So that's what we're doing. It supports clear value because this is the goal of the system that we're building. And then time-bound, right? Time-bound, we want to get this done by the end of the year. And so what I've done here is I've turned the problem statement, right? This was our problem statement, into a positive statement that ticks all those boxes. And we end up with an objective. It's a qualitative goal, right? This is why we go to work every day. This is why the team is doing this. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's important to level set the objectives based on where you sit in the organization, Because we don't want to set our teams up for failure. We want to set objectives that our teams could theoretically achieve. And so if you're in charge, as I said before, if you're in charge of a business unit, the goals of that business unit can be your objective, high level. But if you're in charge of just one part of that customer journey, for example, let's say you're in charge of the authentication piece of the customer journey, your objective should reflect the goals for that part of the user journey only, right? We're going to build the simplest authentication process for, the credit card industry or whatever it is, right? That's what we want to focus on. Because if you set your goals too high, your team won't be able to achieve it, right? And that's super risky. We're setting them up to fail. Okay. That's how we write our objectives. Now, how do we write our key results? Well, you need your cat, again, super important. But most importantly, key results. So if the objective is hey, this is our goal, this is our strategic, target, right? The key results answer the question, how will we know we have achieved the objective? And so the first thing we want to talk about in key results is that they're quantifiable. They are metrics. Let's be super clear. They're numbers and they're metrics. Ideally, they are ratios or rates. They give us a sense of how we're trending. 30% more of X, 50%, less of Y, twice as much Z, half as much, whatever, right? Ideally, we want ratios or rates because that gives us a sense of how we're trending over time. Now, obviously, to have a ratio or a rate, you need a baseline. And so if you have that baseline, right on. If you don't have that baseline, then you can start with an absolute number, acquire 5 customers, right, in Q1. But as soon as you have that baseline, now I want to see, right, a 75% quarter-over-quarter growth in customer acquisition, right? So establish that baseline and then switch to ratios or rates. Your key results should be aggressive. If you're crushing them every quarter, right, you're nailing them, you're not trying hard enough, right? You're not setting your goals aggressively enough. I mean, we're looking at, 75, 80% of your key result, generally speaking, is a good target. Your key results should be verifiable with evidence. We should be able to pull reporting, analytics, data, market research, customer research, et cetera, to prove that these numbers are true. And by far, the most important part of key results, and I've underlined it in red to make it super clear that this is the most important part, your key results must be outcomes. This is how we tie all that whole intro. This is where it comes in, right? Your key results must be measures of human behavior, okay? This disagrees with some of the stuff that what John Doerr wrote about in Measure What Matters. So if you read Measure What Matters, you know that this conflicts with some of that. My belief, and this is particularly relevant to Agilists, is that if you put output in your key results, we've changed nothing, right? We want to build the most compelling and engaging online learning platform for lawyers by the end of the year, right? That's our objective. And the key result is ship the leaderboard by the end of the quarter. We've literally changed nothing. Like fixed scope, fixed time initiative, right? No agility, no course correction, no real learning taking place in that. Just build me the leaderboard by the end of the quarter. And so I want to be super clear. Your key results must be outcomes. They must be measures of human behavior. The only way, remember, that we know that we've delivered value is if we can see people changing their behavior in a meaningful and positive way for themselves, the people who consume the thing that we make. Okay. Show you some examples in just a second here. Okay. So the way that we come up with our key results is we have to actually define our target audience, right? If our goal is to change behavior, whose behavior do we want to change? And that could, again, this is depending on what your objective is. It could be current customers, prospective customers, users, colleagues, third-party vendors, leadership teams, designers, engineers, right? Whatever it is, who consumes the thing that you make? Generally speaking, that's your target audience. And then the key question is this: what will those people, the people that we just identified, be doing differently if we achieve the objective? Right? How will their behavior change? right? If we build the most compelling online learning platform for lawyers for the rest of their career, right? I want to see a 50% decrease in the number of existing customers leaving the service due to user experience, because that's the issue that we're dealing with right now. Right? That's a significant issue that we're dealing with right now. And that's super, super important to me, right? We want to change that. Let me make this super obvious. Okay, can you guys open chat? We'll do this in chat for a minute in Zoom. Okay, pop open chat for just a minute, and then let me ask you a couple of questions, and then let's go through this particular exercise. Okay. As we think about applying OKRs to our business, we've already defined output. Output is the thing that we make, right? Outcomes, the behavior change you want to see in our users, and impact is the high-level measures of the health of our business, right? Generally speaking, unless you're in a leadership position, our key results are going to focus here on outcomes, the things that people do in the systems that we build. And so let me show you what that means. Let's take an example for just a second. Let's imagine for just a second that you are all now, congratulations, the owners of a brick and mortar mattress store. Okay, terrific. Now, if you're the owner of this particular mattress store, right, what are your impact metrics? What are the high-level measures of the health of your business? Just pop them into chat. Like, right, what are you measuring when you're measuring the health of your mattress store at a very, very high level? Right, just go ahead and pop some of those answers into chat. Revenue, boom, exactly right. Number of sales. Returns, mattresses sold, returning customers, very, very good, exactly. Sales, right? Cost of operations, cost of goods sold, right? Profit, exactly. Cost of doing business. Number of sales per the expense, exactly. Customer satisfaction, perfect. You guys got this, great. Now, what are the behaviors that you might observe in your store that would lead to a sale, right? What do people do in the store that might lead to a sale? They lie down. They refer their friends. What else? They try the mattress. Absolutely. They spend time in the store. They ask questions. Exactly. They hang out in the store for a while. They come to the store. Don't forget that, right? They actually have to show up. That's good. What else? They provide good feedback. They write a review. Absolutely. All right. Very, very, very good. Last question. Yeah, exactly. They try multiple physical products in the store. They tell their friends. Perfect. Now, last question. What might you do to the store to drive those behaviors? How might you design your store? What might you do to the store in order to drive these behaviors that we just talked about? Good customer service. Absolutely. Social media presence, get people to the store. Yep. What else? Yeah, the flow through the store, how you lay out the mattresses, a comfortable environment, spacious, easy to try, give kids a place to play. Smart, someone's thinking, make products easily accessible, work with service personnel on their attitude, 100%. Signage, inviting people to try the product. Yeah. Design coffee, good lighting, exactly. Look at the photo. There's one kind of very, very good idea in the photo. Like what do people generally speaking don't like to do in a strange bed other than lie down in it? Yeah, mood music. Be watched. Fair enough, right? Look, you don't want to put you're coming in off the street. Exactly. Rodolfo nails it, right? Put your feet up. How do we enable people to put their feet up and not take their shoes off in a public place? Right? We put guards at the end of the bed, the green stuff here at the end of the bed, the pillow guards, right? We change those every now and again, right? We ask them to take their shoes off, but some people aren't comfortable doing that in public, right? So All that stuff that we just talked about, the lighting, the mood music, the layout, the mattress covers, etc., right? The coffee, the music, those are output. Those are features of your store. Their sole purpose is to elicit an outcome, a behavior change. Come to the store. Come to the store with your partner. Very important. Lie on a mattress. Lie on more than one mattress. Ask questions. Ask about removing my last mattress. Exactly. So if the things like mood music, coffee, mattress cover, pillow cover, lighting, etc., customer service attitude, don't encourage people to lie down on the mattress because we believe lying down on the mattress drives sales, then those features didn't work, right? Our measure of success is getting people to lie down on a mattress, to come to the store and to lie down on a mattress, right? Because we believe that that drives sales, right? That's the impact that we're trying to achieve. And so if these tactics don't work, we redesign the store, right? The measure of success is not have coffee in the store. The measure of success is get people to lie down on a mattress. Those are the outcomes, and those are your key results in this particular case, right? We're going to keep iterating on the store design continuously forever until we find the right combination to get folks to lie down regularly, right? And so as we start to solve for this, right? I want to become the #1 seller of mattresses in the Metro Barcelona area by the end of the year. I want to see a 150% increase in foot traffic to the physical store, a 50% increase in online to offline referrals. So you go to the website, you come to the store, and a 33% of my foot traffic comes in with their partner, because you should not buy a mattress without the person who sleeps next to you. I learned that one the hard way. Okay, so that's kind of our mattress store example. If we want to show a good example for the lawyer example, right? So we want to build an effective and engaging continuing education learning product for the lawyers, right? Each user will take at least 3 courses each year. 25% of new customers will come from word of mouth referrals, and each law firm that signs up registers at least 50% of its staff. Like different behaviors to tell us that we're building an engaging and compelling product. I want to show you one more example, and I want to talk about what happens after OKRs and a couple of anti-patterns. And so I should be able to wrap up in the next 7 or 8 minutes. Let me show you one more example. I love this example because this is from the medical space, from the healthcare space. This is from the Cleveland Clinic, perhaps not surprisingly, headquartered in Cleveland. It's kind of like the Mayo Clinic in that sense, but it's a global healthcare organization, very well renowned. They put out an annual CEO OKR scorecard, publicly facing. I downloaded this from their website, and they have really excellent OKRs. I want to call your attention to a couple that I really like. The first, the one at the top, is a really good one. Best place to receive care anywhere. Inspirational, aspirational, clear value, right? Time boxed because it's annual, okay? How do we know? Well, they have an absolute measure of serious safety events. They want to get that down to 0, ideally. And they have a ratio or a rate of safety events. They want to get that down as well. Super interesting, right? I really like this other one too. There's plenty more on here, and there's plenty on their website, but this one in the middle is internally facing. Care for caregivers. Best place to work in healthcare. Inspirational, aspirational. Clear value. We want the best people to come work in the best place. How do we know? Right? Well, we want our staff to recommend it as a place to work. So have you recommended it as a place to work? We want that number to hit 90%. And then regrettable turnover. So people quitting that we didn't want to quit. We want to get that number down as well. What percent is that? Super interesting, right? This is applicable so far in nearly every industry that I've come across. And again, the measure of success is not 4 weeks vacation. That's a feature of the job, right? Would you recommend this place? Have you recommended it as a place to work? Yes, I have, right? That's a good indication. Okay. So that's what OKRs look like. Now, the interesting thing about OKRs is this. we don't talk about features. And so if we set goals for teams without telling them what to build, or if they set goals for themselves, ideally, without telling them what to build, how do they know what to work on? And that's the question I get most often in my life these days, right? And the answer to that question is this idea of product discovery. Now, product discovery, we called it lean UX. You've heard versions of it as design thinking. It's heavily leans on lean startup. But the idea is that we build this model, right, where we declare a set of assumptions, right? We believe that having a well-lit storefront, mood lighting, and soothing music, plus mattress covers, will get folks to come to the store and lie down on at least 3 mattresses, right? And then what we do is we then test those assumptions. We run lightweight experiments to learn whether or not that works. And this is a continuous learning process. If that doesn't work, we'll try something else. If it does work, how can we optimize it and make it better? At what point should we try a new feature, right? And the goal of all of this is to start to build experiments, right? It's these experiments that then begin to tell us whether or not we're meeting a need, right? Whether or not we're meeting it in a meaningful way, and whether we're changing behavior. And if we are changing behaviors, if we're getting a signal from the market that it's working, then we can expand and scale up the level of effort in our idea, in our experiment. Let me give you just one example of a nice experiment that I really like. This is from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. If you know anything about the Netherlands, if you've ever been, you know they ride bicycles a lot in the Netherlands. And so the city of Rotterdam, right, they need to supply bicycle racks for their citizens. Now, there's a lot of debate about where to put the bike racks. People have strong opinions. It should be near here or away from here. We want to encourage bike traffic here or discourage bike traffic here. Bike racks are costly. They contain concrete and steel, and they're kind of permanent. You kind of have to break the concrete to get them back out. So the city of Rotterdam had a hypothesis about how to get folks to where they'd like to get folks to actually use these bike racks, where they'd like folks to ride through, and to experiment, to test their idea, to test their hypothesis about how to achieve this outcome or this behavior change. They have bike racks on wheels, temporary bike racks, and they plop them down on various curbs in the city, and they measure behavior. Do people use them? How many people use them? Is it consistent? Is it consistent over time? And if the answers to those are sufficiently positive, yes, people use them, enough people use them consistently over time, they make them permanent. They pour concrete and put steel. But if people don't use the bike rack, they'll just roll this thing somewhere else and try again and figure it out, right? The idea with OKRs is that we don't invest everything we have in the first idea. We test and learn what combination of code, copy, design, business model, value proposition, pricing model, et cetera, will get folks to behave in a way that helps us achieve our objective. And when we find that right combination through continuous learning and experimentation, right, then we scale, then we harden it, then we launch it, and then we launch it sort of broadly and ship it. And for the record, these continuous systems that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, they really allow us to build continuous learning into the process, right? Because if we can put stuff out into the market every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, then we can put out these tiny experiments and see how people behave, and then adjust our work accordingly. And to be super clear, this being an Agile group, changing course based on evidence is being agile. That's agility, right? And that's by far, I think, the most important thing that we can help our teams do, right? And so I think that's really important. I think for the sake of time, I'm just going to wrap things up here with sort of this, like the last 3 takeaways, and then we'll do Q&A and wrap up. So look, OKRs, I think they're perfectly timed given the nature of business and technology today. The benefits of setting our goals in this human-centric, customer-centric way is that we are explicitly demanding that our teams do discovery work to figure out what solutions are most likely to succeed. They've got to talk to customers. They've got to run experiments. They've got to try things and learn and pivot and kill some ideas and try some new stuff. In doing so, they get closer to the customer. They build a culture of empathy and a real focus on the customer. We know what they do. We know what they don't do. We know why, et cetera. And by building that empathy, we're increasing the agility of the organization, right? Because we're collecting evidence and then we're making decisions based on that evidence to course correct, to adjust what we're working on, to invest more here and less here. And that's the best thing that we can help to add to our organization. And I believe that if we set goals with OKRs focused on outcomes as the key results, we can achieve all of these things. Okay. And so with that, I want to say thank you. And we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to leave as much time as I could for questions. I did want to add that if you're interested about this book that we've got coming out later this year, it's going to be probably October, roughly speaking. If you go to okr-book.com, it's just a sign up for that list and we'll notify you when the book is available for pre-order, et cetera, and that type of thing. Okay. Any questions at all after today? That's my email address on there. Feel free to email me. And if you want to follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, I'd be happy to connect with you there as well. So with that, what questions do we have in the time that we have left?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I'm just going to open up audio, but you can also punch something into chat if you prefer that. But just keep in mind, you will be recorded if you are, stating a question here on voice. So let's just see. Any questions, OKRs?
I answered all the questions, Joe.
I'm just still blown away by this Rotterdam example. So simple.
Cool, right?
Effective. Very cool.
Jeff, this is Paula. I have a question.
Sure.
How would you recommend? I've been trying to push this, right? What is your recommendation to get some traction in having OKRs, because we've gotten them thinking, we've pried them out of the build trap. They've all read outcomes over outputs, right?
Good.
They, what do we, well, I shouldn't say all, but like the group that I was our product side. What do I do to kind of, I've given some talks and I just don't, we're still doing that 19th century planning, right? What's the hook, right?
Yeah. I think, look, so it's a great question. And I think the hook is evidence that it works, right? And I don't think external evidence is helpful if, like, for example, I was talking to somebody today and they're like, our organization copies everything Amazon does. Right. So I suppose if that's your situation and you can have evidence that Amazon does it, then that helps. But realistically, you want evidence within your context. This company is
All right. Let me put this in context for you, Jeff. All right. We have 100 years of manufacturing experience and we're now moving into software space, right?
Got it. Pitney Bowes? I'm just asking for a friend.
No.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, look, the best way to prove this, look, to your point, 100 years of historical inertia, right? That's a tidal wave of sort of ingrained practices that got us this far. And so the only way, massive change like this, and look, this is a simple idea that has radically massive impact on an organization, right? And so the only way, and so radical change is terrifying, particularly to an organization like this. The only way to get folks to move past that fear is to prove the model. The only way to prove the model is to mitigate the risk of trying it out, right? So the way that I think about this is we apply the process to the process. In other words, how can we run an experiment with the process, right? A pilot team, for example. I'm not asking you for 500 people to change their way of working or 5,000. I'm saying 5. Okay, or 7, right? Give me 5 or 7 people, right? Let's experiment with them for 3 months. Let's give them enough time to try this out. Let's give them a very specific set of outcomes to achieve, right? OKRs to achieve. Let's let them work independently. Let's put them on something that is strategic enough that people will pay attention, but not so strategic that if they screw it up, bad things happen to the company. And let's run this experiment and set some clear success criteria for it. Not just for the OKRs, but actually for the team productivity, efficiency, camaraderie, et cetera, all those types of things. And let's see if we can get 5 people for 3 months. And if we can prove in that experiment that there's something here, maybe they'll give us 10 people for another 3 months. And kind of scale up with that evidence, with those small wins. I think that's the best way. You're going to have to find somebody who wants to take a risk on this. Somebody's willing to put stick their neck out inside the organization to do this, which isn't easy. But I do believe that this is and there's one more really important thing to do in this particular case is that team that's doing that experiment, should you be lucky enough to be able to pull that experiment off, even for 8 weeks, I think you'd be able to show some results. That team needs to be 100% transparent. And what I mean by that, and I've seen this done, and it was such a disappointment. If you take that team and you sort of bury them somewhere out of sight, and then they emerge 12 weeks later and they're like, ta-da, we're agile and we're outcome focused and we're using OKRs, no one's going to buy it. No one's going to believe it. And no one's going to know what's happened. And so that team needs to be visible, transparent, communicating regularly to everyone. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we did. Here's what we learned. Here's the idea that we killed based on that evidence, right? Here's the reprioritization that we decided on based on that evidence, to show what's happening so that when they get to the end of the experiment, everyone knows how they got there. And if the results are positive, we can point to it because you know what we did. And so I think that's the best way I know how to do that. What do you think? Viable? Realistic?
Well, it is viable. I mean, I think part of it is language, right? Because I've got a team, I've got an entire group working on a product that is using outcome-based roadmaps, actually are using like how they're moving the needle as their measure of success, right? How, the percentage of change. So do I just have them write what they've written, not as OKRs, right? Because they're not using the language, but they're doing the output. I hate to say the word output, but the output of what they're doing smells like OKRs, but isn't in quite the framework. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And so look, I wouldn't get religious on any of this. I think if you're getting any kind of traction, obviously if they're using the language and not doing it, then you should call them out on that. Right. But I do believe that if they're taking some steps forward, I wouldn't get precious or religious about it. Like let's get them part of the way, and then we can get them hopefully the rest of the way there. And so whatever it takes to get them to move forward. It's kind of like I'll give you a side example that's related, but a bit off topic, right? Not totally off topic. I used to be pretty hardcore about. I had a strongly held belief that, for example, if a team measured the number of customer interviews that they did as a measure of success, that was ridiculous, right? It's just a vanity metric. Oh, we talked to 1,000 customers. Well, did you learn anything? Did you change course based on what you learned, et cetera, right? Like, it's like you could do 10,000 interviews. It doesn't matter to me because you're not learning it. Like, that's not the goal here. However, I've changed my mind. I'm growth mindset, if you will. I've changed my mind over the years, right? If an organization doesn't do any customer conversations at all today, right? And they set a metric for, hey, we want to talk to 500 customers this year. Okay, fantastic. Just get the practice, get comfortable, build the systems that allow you to do this. And when you cross that 500 mark, we can start talking about improving what you're doing and actually using the learning in the next round of moving forward. And so all of that was to say that if folks are showing some kind of interest in this idea, even if it's not exactly right, let them do it, let them get comfortable with it, and then give them the next piece, and then give them the next piece, right? Particularly in a 100-year 50-year-old organization with manufacturing in its DNA, this is how you'll inch them forward.
Jeff, I have a question. Thanks. This is really insightful. I have a question as far as the whole concept of cascading OKRs, and I know we've kind of don't cascade them anymore from at least my reading. I think they need to align, but not necessarily cascade, right?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, when we set OKRs, do we need to set OKRs at sort of the higher level first, or can OKRs really start at those more like business unit levels, like you were talking about, and then see how they align to the, yeah.
So here's the way I think about it. Look, I think you can. Let me describe what I believe to be ideal, and then we'll talk about reality. Ideally, an organization has a clearly defined and well-articulated and broadly understood strategy. Okay, so it's like foundationally, strategically, we are focused on X, Y, and Z for the next 6 to 12 months, ideally, right? From there, we can set strategic OKRs, right? Here's how we know that we are achieving the strategy. Okay. And at that point, the rest of the organization can kind of work from the bottom up and say, okay, great. Here's how we are supporting the strategy, right? Remember the objectives and the key results should support the higher purpose. And so ideally, we've got a top-down approach that says strategically, we care about this, and this is how we're measuring success. And we've got a bottom-up approach that says, here's how we are supporting that from the bottom up, right? That's ideal. And we meet in the middle, hopefully, right? And managers approve or negotiate sort of with the teams what they've actually chosen to work towards. Now, obviously, if there's business units in there as well, like those business units can set some strategic OKRs for their business units, and then they can align that upwards, and then their teams can align that up to the BU goals as well. So I think it's a top-down and a bottom-up situation to be ideal. But the reality is that a lot of organizations don't have a clearly articulated and well-known strategy. Sometimes they don't have any really articulated strategy at all, except make money. And it doesn't mean you can't set OKRs. You can, but the problem is there's not a whole lot of alignment across the organization. Right? Here's how I think I can support making money. Here's how I think we can support making money, right? And there's not a whole lot of that coordination and that alignment. And so I think the ideal way is to have that strategic foundation and then work top down and bottom up. One more question in the chat there, Joe, that I don't mind answering in the time we have left.
Sure. That would be great.
Says, I work in a large org in the UK that is transitioning to a product agile approach. Congratulations. I'm still new to all of this. Is OKRs the best way to measure results, or are there other approaches in the agile methodology? And if so, what sets OKRs approach apart? So again, I think, look, you can tell I'm passionate about this, right? And I think this is the best way to measure success and progress in any situation. And I think it actually is a driver of agility. I think a lot of organizations, and I don't want to open up a can of worms with 3 minutes left in this, but I think a lot of organizations measure success with velocity, right? The production of features, or how much you're producing in a particular sprint. I think you'll find that to be a very common measure of success, right? Velocity, essentially. Like how much stuff are you producing every sprint? And there's always a drive to amplify that. In my opinion, in that situation, you are managing to output. How much stuff are you making, right? I think a better way to measure success is the stuff that you're making positively impacting the experience of the people who use your product or your service? Because remember, every piece of software that you make, you have to live with forever. We never sunset. We can BS ourselves that we sunset features, but nobody ever sunsets features. We have to maintain this stuff forever, right? And so ideally, we want to make the least amount of stuff that delivers the most amount of value. And so I believe that outcomes are the best way, OKRs are the best way to measure this. But you'll find a lot of folks, a lot of teams measuring the output. Okay. I can see the voting, so don't hurt my feelings. Very fragile. Anyway, that's what I got. Joe, I think there's a question about the recording. Otherwise, thank you folks for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put this in the chat again. This is my email address. If you have a question or anything at all, feel free to jump on there.
Hey, Jeff, thank you so much. I just want to address that one question here about the recording. That recording, time permitting, goes out somewhere day or two. We'll post it on agilenyc.org. You can also see some links there to other recordings. Sometimes we also have like a transcript there, and that is useful for people that are looking for quotes. You made a lot of quotes over here. The beautiful thing for me as a host on these recordings is that I'm very busy with the administration and some questions and looking at everything is technically working. And I have the opportunity to watch it again. So, and that's what I'm going to do, because I picked up so many awesome things here in the background. And also, just want to thank you for your time. I know you have an objective tonight, go to a show.
I do. I'm going to entertain some relatives from out of town. And so
I hope you achieve your key results, and thank you so much, Jeff. Cheers to Europe, and
good to see you.
Have a good evening, and thank you so much. And I'll get in touch with everybody by email as a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thanks, folks. Take care. Bye.